Let's bring in Alex Perche in Washington, D.C., along with ABC News contributor, former senior CIA field operative Daryl Blocker for more. Daryl, Ukraine is now trying to counterattack Russian forces and try to push them back away from the capital. Yesterday, you talked about how Ukrainian forces have somewhat of a home turf advantage. Is that the case in this area?
It is still the case, but pushing troops back as opposed to holding ground are two completely different military tactics. Because the numbers are clearly in favor of the Russians, pushing them out is going to be much more difficult than holding them off.
Do you think they can do it?
I think in time, all the things being considered, including political, diplomatic, that yes, they will push them back, but militarily, no, I don't think they can do it.
Got it. All right. And Alex, the Pentagon released a detailed list of the weapons and military equipment that it's sending to Ukraine. It includes hundreds of Stinger missile systems, thousands of javelins, anti-tank weapons, 100 armed drones, thousands of guns, body armor helmets. So how does that compare to what Zelensky is asking for?
Well, Diane, you're absolutely right. There's $800 million in new funding for the Ukrainians' fight against Russia announced yesterday. And look, it checks off a lot of things on the wish list for President Zelensky, but notably missing from that those MiG planes that he pleaded for yesterday, and also notably missing the closing of the airspace over Ukraine, the White House and Congress, the overwhelming majority of Congress not going along with a no-fly zone, and so that is something that Zelensky continues to push for. But right now, it's not coming to him, at least not from the U.S.
Daryl, what do you make of that list, and what impact do you think these weapons could have and equipment could have on the battlefield?
I think the equipment is less important than the will to fight. The Russian forces don't seem to have that will to fight, whereas the Ukrainians recognize that them not fighting is the end of them as a nation and as a people. It's just one of those things that military, you just can't gauge and judge someone's will. And clearly Putin underestimated the Ukrainian resolve.
And Daryl, I've heard that a lot. Can you explain why? What makes you say that the Russian forces don't have that will?
They have the numbers in terms of personnel. They have the numbers in terms of tanks and planes and artillery, and yet they just can't seem to break the will of the people that they're trying to subjugate. It's one of those intangibles, and I think the Russian forces weren't properly prepared in terms of they don't really understand why they're doing what they're doing, and I don't think Putin or his inner circle have done a good job of trying to justify to them why they're doing it. The days of troops, even soldiers, going out and blindly following what their leaders are telling them to do, that's another time and another day. They have the same millennial and Gen X folks that we do. They question everything. They want to have a reasoning why they're doing these things, including soldiers, and especially right now, the Russian soldiers.
And Alex, I want to talk about this comment from President Biden calling Vladimir Putin a war criminal, because when he was first asked by a reporter, he said no, that he wasn't prepared to call him that. And then he asked for clarification on the question, and then he said outright, I think he is a war criminal. And then later we heard from the White House press secretary that the president was just speaking from the heart, and then echoing the previous talking point that there's an official investigation underway by the State Department, and we'll have to wait for those results before the U.S. can officially call